Galimera, Galimera, Galimera. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And as you can see this morning, I'm broadcasting from the rear balcony. The reason for that is we've got some work going on around the front of the house at the moment. They're strimming the other side of the road, removing all the sort of debris and growth. And so it's a bit noisy. They're very enthusiastic with their job at the moment this morning, so we'll just let them get on with it. But at the moment, as you can see, it's a beautiful day. We had a strange day yesterday with the weather. You might remember when I did the beginning of the broadcast, it was absolutely glorious. It was fantastic. Anyway, as the day proceeded, it got darker and gloomier as it went on. We actually expected to have some rain, but it didn't happen, thank God. I actually cleaned the veranda up during that period and rearranged it all. But anyway, we had really weird dark clouds. If you look towards the town, it was bright and beautiful and sunny. But when you look towards the hills where I'm pointing the screen at the moment, it was grim and dark. But anyway, it seems to have cleared up. Anyway, a little message from Amanda. She says, good morning, Ginge. Sunny today with cold wind and some cloud later. High degrees of 17 degrees. It will feel like 20. Have a good day. Thank you for that, Amanda. I've got to be honest, there is a breeze, there is a wind blowing. I can feel it, and you probably can see it, especially in the tops of the trees over there. There is a wind blowing. I'm not sure if you're picking that up on the microphone as I'm broadcasting. Want to say a quick hello to Les Paul over there in Florida. Also, Marie Hallberg in Sweden, and also Wiggy Winstanley in Cyprus. Nice to have you tuning in this morning. And old Steve Hinkling over there in Stoke-on-Trent, who should be here this week. And he says it looks good here too, but it's frosty. Gives high of 11 degrees. Oh, bless him. He would rather be here at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, than he would rather be in Stoke, because he should have been here this week. Yeah, and the noisy cockerel, he's making his presence felt down there. So anyway, let's crack on with the news, because there's a lot been going on within the last 24 hours. So I'm going to switch the camera around. Yeah, there we go. So let's quickly crack on with the news, because there has, as I said, a lot been going on in the last 24 hours. Right, today then, it's the 15th of April 2021. It is a Thursday. I can't believe this week has just shot by. It is now day 161 of our lockdown that we've had here. And can I also say a big shout out to A to Z. A to Z are celebrating 400 days of broadcasting. They're a little Greek site that I use to get some information on that. Anyway, they're celebrating 400 days. 400 days that they've been bringing news and information here on Greece. So well done, guys, and keep up the good work. You're absolutely brilliant. Anyway, COVID in the last 24 hours, it is starting to recede just a little bit. Believe it or not, it is, yesterday we had highs yesterday of 4,033. Now today I can report that yesterday there was 3,089 new infections recorded across the country. Yep. That brings the grand total since the pandemic started to 304,184 cases since it all started. 12 new cases were identified after checks into the country. That is obviously down, thank God, from the day before. But we had 15 on that day, so we had 12 yesterday. Anyway, the most interesting stats at the moment is what's been going on the islands. At the moment, I always look at the Ionian Islands just to remind people. Lefkada's had no new cases. Kefalonia's had 8 new cases. Corfu has had no new cases in the last 24 hours. However, Zakynthos, they put down on the national stats as having 16 new cases on the island. I think that is just a catch-up. However, locally reported, we had 3 cases of coronavirus. The 2 of them were tests performed in the hospital by the molecular method, and 1 was a test performed by a rapid test. So at the moment, for yesterday, Zakynthos officially on the ground had 3 positive cases. That brings the total at the moment that Zakynthos has had since the beginning of the year up to 392 positive cases. And as for this month alone, we've had 118 cases for the month of April. So again, things are looking like they're going in the right direction, but we shall wait and see. Anyway, as for deaths across the country, they are down as well. You might remember the other day I reported 93 new deaths across the country. At the moment, yesterday there were 81 new deaths across the country, bringing the total up to 9,135 since the pandemic started. 96.4% of those people were had underlying health problems or were over the age of 70. So at the moment, my condolences to all those families that are affected who have lost loved ones at the moment. Anyway, as for deaths here on the island, no change there, thank God. We've had 3 deaths this year, and we've had 4 deaths this year, 3 deaths last year, so we've had a grand total of 7 deaths since the pandemic started. Now, when it comes to critical cases in ICUs at the moment, that is up slightly. Reported to you yesterday, there were 802 critical cases, and now it is 809. What I did notice is that the female has gone up a little bit. There were 505 male and 304 female. It looks like the female ratio is just crept up just a little bit as well. Anyway, once again, those people that are in critical care at the moment, the average age of those people is about 67 years of age, and 83% of those have underlying health issues or are over the age of 70. So there you go. That's the stats for today. Right, let's looking at the news for today. Member countries of the European Union have formally agreed to the concept of COVID-19 travel passports to make travel within the Union safer and a way of reopening tourism this summer. Now, the passports will confirm whether the holders has been vaccinated, recovered from the virus, or has received a negative COVID diagnostic test. Anyway, MEPs will discuss the plans in Europe, in the European Parliament in May, which is all well and good when our season should be starting in May. You're only going to start discussing it then. So again, it just makes me think, what the hell is going on with everything that's happening? Also as well, yesterday, the Minister of Labour here in Greece, Kostas Hadiakis, and the Deputy Health Minister, Vasilis Kostamanis, announced on Wednesday that self-administration of coronavirus tests will be mandatory for a variety of public and private sector employees starting on Monday. Yeah, the private sector employees who will have to provide a negative result from a mandatory self-test before going to work next week are those in the retail business, the hospitality business, so you could effectively call that bars and restaurants if only they were open, all right, transport and travel, cleaning services, hairdressers and nail salons, and also betting shops as well. It looks like they have to mandatory self-test before they're allowed to go to work. We knew that was coming at some point. Anyway, public sector employees, those working for like the Citizen Service Centre, which we know as KEP, local municipality administrators, court employees, cleaning services, and those employed in the Help at Home programme. According to the ministers, the process will be easier as all employees who will be affected are registered with the Labour Ministry's Ariane platform with their AMCA number and social security numbers. So that immediately smacks to me like we are going to see mandatory vaccinations coming for people to work. It starts with testing and then it will end with vaccinations. Anyway, employees will procure test kits from their local pharmacy using their AMCA number, and then they will upload the results on the Egrani platform, that's the online platform. If positive, the employee will have to get a second test at a testing site before being allowed to return to his or her post. The result of the second test must also be uploaded to the online platform. Once there is a negative result, the employee is free to return to work. Otherwise, he or she must complete a mandatory quarantine. Anyway, employers are required to remind employees of their duty to test themselves. Failure to do so will result in a €300 fine for the employer. Failure to register a test result carries a €500 fine, and any employer found with a positive employee faces a €1,500 fine per employee. So it looks like it's going to happen. I think a lot of people now, like myself, are going to have to seriously start considering, are they going to have the vaccine or not now? Because we are not going to be able to work or be able to do anything unless we have that. I just feel that this is undue pressure being applied. When you look at what's gone on in Greece since the beginning, our rates have always been low. Our death rate has been low. It's like the government has got nowhere else to go. That's the feeling I feel at the moment. They've done everything they can. They've now been proved the lockdowns haven't worked. In fact, the infection rate has got worse with the lockdowns, to be quite honest. And it just doesn't seem to be working. We are a little insular society here. We are an island. Therefore, it should be easier to control a virus infection and virus spread. But the virus is going to do what it does. And as Les Porter is saying to me now, this is insanity at its finest. And I would agree totally with that there on that comment. Anyway, a senior government official said on Wednesday that Greece plans to lift quarantine restrictions for the next week for travellers from the European Union and 5 other countries who have been vaccinated or test negative for COVID-19. Last month, Greece lifted a 1-week quarantine rule for Israeli travellers who had been inoculated and tested negative. Greece, which emerged from a decade-long financial crisis before the pandemic last year, has said it will open its tourism sector, a key growth driver for its economy, for the middle of May. A senior tourism official told Reuters on the condition of anonymity, "We will gradually lift the restrictions at the beginning of next week ahead of the opening on May." The official said citizens from the European Union, the United States, you're in there, Paul, Britain, Serbia, Israel, and United Arab Emirates will be allowed to travel to Greece via airports of Athens, Thessaloniki, Heraklion, which is in Crete, and Hania, which is also in Crete, Rhodes, Kos, Mykonos, Santorini, and Corfu, and also be able to cross at 2 border crossings, although they haven't been specified. I notice we're not down on that list as Zakynthos, which is a shame. But anyway, again, 1 minute you're letting people out the houses. The next minute you're telling people to go get COVID tests so that you can work. Do you know what? It's like you're clutching at straws that you're going to want this season to come because the economic crisis that's going to come with it is going to come. And again, it's leaving people confused. It's leaving a state of uncertainty. A lot of Brits are still waiting to see what way is Boris going to flip-flop at the moment as to whether you're going to be allowed to travel. We were talking to people yesterday who have property here in Zakynthos. They're caught in a situation of whether they can come back or not, whether they be breaking the law, where they could end up getting a £5,000 fine for leaving the country, not for arriving in the country. Britain still has people arriving on holiday into the UK, but its own citizens are not allowed to leave the UK and go on holiday. And as Amanda Gregory says, who's going to pay for these tests? If she's talking about the tests here for people working, I think at the moment, all these tests that have been given away free by the Greek government, with your AMCA number, those are the tests that you'll be using initially. So at least it's not costing you anything at the moment for you to be able to get back to work. But once those free tests start to run out, again, that's another little rethink we're going to have, Mr. Mitsotakis, as to if we're all going to go for testing, who's going to pay for testing? And if at the end of the day, the ordinary man in the street has to pay for tests a second time round, don't forget you've already paid for them in your taxes and the government's bought them on your behalf. And then again, you're going to have to test again to be able to go back to work, and you're expected to pay for that test to go back to work? Well, that is, as again Les Paul is saying, that is insanity. Absolute insanity. You can't have it both ways, all right? So as you can see, I'm getting on a rant here at the moment. But anyway, it also says that passengers from those countries, the ones I've just said to you, will not be quarantined as long as they can prove that they have received 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine or show a negative PCR test carried out 72 hours prior to their arrival. The official also said, adding the tourists would be subject to domestic lockdown restrictions. So what he means by that, I think, is that if he's going to an area that is in some form of curfew, which we are at the moment, i.e. after 9 o'clock at night, you're not allowed out of your house. You as a tourist, despite all your testing and everything else and your negative tests, you will still have to follow that local curfew or lockdown or whatever area you decide to come to. So again, just to remind you, we've got this experiment being run in Rhodes at the moment with Dutch tourists in a hotel there who are doing an 8-day holiday in a completely sterile environment, i.e. nobody is allowed in the hotel unless they are tested, including the staff, the cleaners and everybody else. They are not allowed out of the hotel, so they can't wander the streets of Corfu looking at the beautiful architecture and having a little browse during the day. Because one, the bars and restaurants and that are closed. That's the first thing. Some of the shops are open, but the reality is they're going to stay in that hotel for the whole of their 8 days. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what the result of that is and if that is going to be what holidays will be like if you manage to get out of your own country to be able to come here and visit. Anyway, he also further says, under the current rules, all foreigners arriving in Greece should negative test and quarantine for 7 days. Greece has fared better than other EU countries in containing the first wave of the pandemic, but as a resurgence in COVID-19 infections has forced the country to impose lockdown restrictions since November, and we are still in that lockdown at the moment. In fact, I would dispute that date. It was more of October than it was November. Anyway, it then goes on to say the amount of cases. In total, Greece has reported 301,103 cases and 9,054 deaths so far. So anyway, that is that article there. Now, interestingly, the President of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, not my most popular persons at the moment, confirmed yesterday that there will be a delivery of 50 million Pfizer biotech vaccine doses to the EU, which had initially been scheduled for delivery in the 4th quarter. This now has been brought forward to the 2nd quarter and it will start this month. Well, it seems to be it's starting a little bit late because thinking about it now, we're in April. May should have been when everything started and kicked off in the regards to our tourist season. Anyway, another little article which I thought was interesting, that was in the Greek press. I think this is them trying not to encourage you to visit Turkey for a holiday. The Greek government yesterday reported the worst COVID-19 daily figures since the start of the epidemic in the country. New infections announced 62,797 with a further 279 deaths. It seems that stricter measures and partial countrywide lockdowns are being imposed in Turkey from midday today during the 2-week period of Ramadan. Yeah, because Ramadan is also starting at the moment. I was looking at the photographs of Mecca and the socially distancing that they're trying to carry out in Mecca. And I've got to be honest, it's quite amazing that they've actually managed to do that. When you think of the hundreds of thousands and millions of people that go to walk around the stone that is there, and normally that is an absolute crush. The people are being very sensible and going round it in an organised fashion, keeping their social distance. So there again, Turkey, when you look at their figures in comparison to Greece's, Turkey's are far worse than ours, far worse than ours. And again, we'll keep an eye on Turkey because we were thinking that if there were 2 countries that were going to have a fantastic season, if they can get over this craziness or insanity of lockdown and viruses and passports and all the other stuff, it would be Turkey and Greece who would reap the whirlwind of actually having a good tourist season. But at the moment, everything is looking in doubt. I've got to be honest, I have had quite a few people yesterday talking to me, PMing me about their concerns about whether they should take a holiday, whether they should book a holiday. And it's not really from our end. Just like to make that clear. People want to come. There's no two ways about it. It's more from the other side. It's from the other side of where they're trying to get out from to come on a holiday. They're waiting for clearer decisions to be made from their governments as to whether they can move freely and come here. So again, I'm just confused at the way 1 minute Greece is sending out all the right signals that we're open for business, but for the people here in the country, he's putting on some really draconian measures, which in some ways, and also the threat of fines and everything else that goes with it, it just smacks of, yeah, you're going to have to get vaccinated. You're going to have to play the game if you're going to work and if you want to take part in anything as well. So again, I think we're in really dark and getting darker times at the moment. Right, and then finally story, which caught my eye yesterday, which is the St. Nicholas Shrine. Now, Jane and I, in 2018, we went to New York. We had a fantastic time in New York. One of the areas that we went to visit was the Remembrance Museum for 9/11. And close to that area of 9/11, where the Twin Towers stood, there is a little Greek church called St. Nicholas. Now, the story about St. Nicholas was crushed by the falling of the Twin Towers and also building number 7. And this little Greek Orthodox church was completely destroyed. Now, what happened there was a big kind of a bun fight going on between the New York Port Authority, the Greek community as well of New York, about who was going to pay to have this church rebuilt. And the church had been kind of a forgotten item of one of the casualties of 9/11, when the Twin Towers collapsed, and the little church that was there was obviously, it collapsed onto Little Church. Now, the interesting thing, there is a connection between Zakynthos and St. Nicholas's, and it was when they were doing the cleanup, when they were sifting through all the rubble and all the debris, they actually obviously came across the little church, and the only thing that survived in the church from when it was crushed by the falling of the Twin Towers and Building 7 was there was an icon of, believe it or not, of St. Denis of Zakynthos that was found in the rubble. And of course, when Jane and I went to New York, we said, we've got to look for this little church. We've got to go and check it out. I want to see if it's true, if this icon of St. Denis from Zakynthos was in that building. When we got there, we were quite shocked to see this little church that was still, the work was going on, and it just basically looked like a little pillbox. That's the best way to describe it. It looked like, my God, this is the church that they're building. This is it. It didn't look very impressive. It wasn't finished. I've got to be honest. It wasn't finished. It looked a little bit of a disappointment. It was closed. There was no windows. There was just one door to go inside, and obviously that was locked and closed. Work was not going on at the time, so we could have a little peek and have a little look. But anyway, it seems now in 2021. The work has still not yet been completed. However, one thing that we didn't realise until we saw the artist's impression only yesterday of what is a concrete block, which looks like one of them little shrines that you get on the side of the road, is the best way to describe it. You must have seen them. People like have them on, if they have a big bit of land, they might have a little church in their land. It looks something like that, but it's just on a slightly larger scale. But anyway, it seems that the building is to be clad in marble, which comes from the outskirts of Athens. And that was the big story, that at the moment a deal has been done where they're going to import all this marble, and the whole building is going to be clad in this marble. The marble has a special feature to it in that they're going to put a kind of transparent dome on top, where the marble then is able to glow from the inside with a very powerful light, which obviously adds to the two lights that glow on special occasions from Ground Zero. So again, it looks like that's all coming ahead. They're also saying that church looks like it's going to become the most popular church in America, they reckon. They're looking at 10 million visitors a year coming to see that little church over there. There is also an appeal for money as well to go towards the financing of it. I remember, if I remember rightly, I think President Obama signed off on a part reconstruction as part of the rebuilding costs for the whole of the Ground Zero area after during his tenure of office as president, when this sort of bun fight came to the fore. So again, something to look out for. If you ever go to New York, go and have a quick look. There's also some nice artist impressions of the building when it's finished. Trust me, I've got some photographs of it as it was in 2018, and I've got to be honest, I just felt a great feeling of disappointment when I saw it. I was expecting it to be really, really lovely, but it was just like a concrete pillbox. But anyway, if you get to New York, go check it out. Oh, by the way, the work should be completed by 2021. I think they're talking about having the work completed by September. Yeah, I think it's September 2020. I'm just trying to see when they're expecting the work to be finished. Yeah, they're hoping to have their doors open actually this year, 11th of September this year, which will be, believe it or not, it'll be the 20th anniversary of that fateful day. And it seems like it wasn't that long ago, does it? Can't believe it. 20 years. Where's that 20 years gone? But anyway, there you go. Right, let's have a quick look at some of the messages that are coming in. I can see Les Paul there is writing sermons as I speak. All right. Emma Marku is looking in. Nice to see you. Rob Davis is tuning in as well. Steve Hinkling is tuning in. Les Paul says beautiful. Obviously loving the skyline. Also, Amanda Gregory is watching as well. Thank you for your lovely weather forecast. Les Paul says, would love to be there. Oh, we'd like to see you here, fella. Get yourself over. Maria Hallberg from Sweden is tuning in. Wiggy over there in Cyprus is tuning in. Obviously, Steve over there in Stoke is looking in. Julie Meldrum is looking in as well. Heather Nash is looking in as well. Les Porter says 161 days. Yep, 161 days we've been in lockdown. And just to put that into context, Paul, this is not a voluntary lockdown where you must stay in your house. This is a lockdown that is imposed where we have to check out with a text message to the police to say we're going either to shop, we're going to the pharmacy, we're going to the garage, we're going out to exercise, or we're going out to help a friend, and you've got a various code number for whatever it is you're going to do. If you're caught out by the police and you haven't booked out, it's a €300 fine. If you go out after the curfew, and our curfew here starts at 9 o'clock at night and goes through till 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're caught out, that is a €300 fine. So we've had one of the strictest, most draconian lockdowns in Europe, and yet it hasn't worked. We've still had the virus do its thing despite that. All right, and I've just seen That's Insane come up underneath, all right? Lucy Dyke is watching. Heather Nash says, morning to you and Jane from a frosty Birmingham. Les Paul says, so low to have a lockdown. Yeah, so low to have a lockdown. True. Gallimera Ginge, this is from Maria in Heidelberg in Sweden. She says, Gallimera Ginge, looks lovely over there. Missing Zanti so much. My heart bursts. Have a great day. Bless you. We look forward to seeing you. Hopefully if you get over. Dean Edwards is watching as well. Andrew the Fridge Watkins is watching as well. Les Paul says, no COVID passports. Yeah, I don't want a COVID passport. That's for sure. Les Paul says you're 100% right, sadly. It's obviously the comment reference about the moves getting closer towards passports and testing certificates, whatever they want to call them. They are an ID card in stealth. And you can bet your dollar Mr. Tony Blair is at the back somewhere pushing this agenda as well, which wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, Les Paul also says government overreach and it's spreading worldwide, except the news. Yeah, except the news, because they edit and they don't want you to hear the full story, that is for sure. Anyway, Les Paul says news doesn't report other countries. Well, to be honest, everybody's looking towards themselves, so I can see that. But there is a case for looking at other countries to see what are they doing that we should be doing, that maybe we're not doing, because again, you get an idea and you get a feel for, because again, we are a global society now. We're not countries anymore. We're global, and whatever happens in America, you can guarantee a week later, you sneeze there, you get a cold in our country, all right, in Britain. And the same with Greece. Greece is the same. Greece takes a big lead from what goes on in the UK to a certain degree. And whatever happens there, you'll guarantee it will probably happen here at some point as well. So again, we should be looking towards what other people are doing. Les Paul also says, heck, if I leave the US, I'm never returning. People don't realise what genuinely is happening in the US. To be honest, America, your society, I've lived and I've worked there. And to be honest, do you know what? I feel so sorry for America, because America, you could fix things very simply there. But unfortunately, your whole political system is corrupted, like probably everybody else's is. The land of the free is not true in America. It's all a kind of a pipe dream. It is something that is a nice ideal, but for some people, it's not a reality. And life is very hard for some people in America. And it doesn't matter whether you're black, whether you're Mexican, whether you're an expat Brit. If you haven't got money there, you are basically knackered. And they support. It amazes me the amount of money that America spends on weapons, on weaponry, on keeping involved in wars that you've got no chance of winning. But I mean, look at Biden. He was in power less than 30 days. He's already starting a war in Syria. I'll give Trump his due. Trump kept you out of Syria. And as soon as Uncle Joe, Sleepy Joe, got voted in, what was it? They changed the mantra around. We've got to go in and sort out this regime in Syria. This regime in Syria is a threat. No, I'm afraid the only threat to Syria is America, to be honest. And why? Rich in resources, rich in minerals, a pipeline to go through, the same as Afghanistan. And if you think of it like this, when Bush left office back in 2008, and Obama came in, America was bombing only two countries. They were bombing Iraq and they were bombing Afghanistan. When Obama left office and he went in on the parasol of bringing the troops home, he left office and America was bombing 7 countries. And now, since coming back into power, Biden's come back into power, America is now bombing 8 with Syria as the new country on the list. So again, we will wait and see what happens there. Again, it breaks my heart to see the way America is embroiled. There are good people there, like everywhere in the world. It's good people run by corrupt governments who do not do the will of the people. They just do what is good for them. And then if you criticize them or say something against them, you're either being cast as being unreasonable, or you're given the brush off of, well, you're no threat to me, I'm important. But at the end of the day, old Joe was running around scrabbling for votes to get ahead of Trump. And in some ways, I was hoping Trump was going to win for a second time, to be quite honest. Why? Because it's what America needs to wake itself up to the corruption. At least Trump's corruption was in the open where you could all see it. Whereas Hillary's and Joe Biden's, what's her name, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, she's got to be the Wicked Witch of the North, if ever there was one. Say one thing, do another thing. And then your progressives like Bernie Sanders, AOC, just sold out, literally sold out. And they sold out over Medicare for all. You, America, could afford Medicare for all. Other nations, Greece has a Medicare for all. It has single-payer health care. These insurance companies that dictate your health should not be allowed to profit off your misery. You should have some nice little safety net of I can leave a job because I can go somewhere else because I know my I've got my health cover, and health cover is so important. And again, it's interesting. America is having the problem now with the vaccine in that it doesn't have a national health service as the way of every other nation has near enough. So that means when it comes to try and roll out nationally a vaccine for everybody, it's at a disadvantage in comparison to Britain and Greece and all the other countries who have some form of socialised medicine healthcare, so that at least they got a platform area to start working on. America, you haven't got that. So immediately for vaccination programs, you're behind everybody else. Anyway, that's my rant. I better get off that. Vicky Wood is watching. Julie White, it says, good morning from a sunny South Yorkshire. Amanda Gregory says, how many tests during the season required? You can carry the virus and not know. A lot of false positive results. And what happens for businesses to replacing employees in 24 hours? It needs a rethink. And that's absolutely, you hit the nail on the head there, Amanda. I'm back on my soapbox again. You're right. Trying to find staff at the moment. We've had a big change here with the, the residency permit. So now we can't bring people in from outside to work, stuff like that, because now the kind of, that door is closed, especially with Brexit. People here now are definitely going to have a job if they can go back to a job, because people from outside can't come and work as easily as they could do in the past. But you're right, trying to find employees within 24 hours because somebody tests positive. Are you going to close a business down if somebody tests positive in that business? That's another question that's not been answered as well. There's a lot of ifs and maybes at the moment. And you can see now that Mitsotakis is scrabbling around because May is looming. His date of May the 14th now is looming. And people are going to want answers. They're going to want action. At the moment, you're talking about a discussion about this in May by the EU. So again, the horse is bolting and the gate is still wide open and no one's there to shut it. So again, you're right. Everything at the moment and the way business is to be done for the season is going to need a rethink. Also, Les Paul says this is biological warfare and government overreach at its finest, forced compliance. Don't get me on Dr. Fauci. America, you were behind some of this because of research that you wanted carried out in China through backdoor deals. This was all conspiracy theory talk over a year ago, but now this year it's not conspiracy, it's actually been proven fact, all right? Dave Coldwell is watching, Alfling is watching. Les Paul says, my ex-wife is a radical Islamic. They should keep 3 times. Oh, anyway, I'm not going to go into that one there, Paul. Shane Bowen is watching. Les Paul says, Gallimera Ginge from a sunny but frosty Exmoor. Have a great day. Looking through. Chick Ballantyne is watching. Colin Musgrave. Yvonne Monroe is watching. Les Paul says most churches in New York are forbid to open still. I didn't realise they're still closed. I also thought that number of 10 million visitors, I think that could be the Greek patriarch talking there, because I still think St Patrick's gets a lot of visitors a year when it's open. I'm not sure what's going on at the moment in New York as regards your lockdown. Right, listen, quickly got to say hello to Ian Booth. I know, Ian, you were under the knife the other day. Bob Baxter was sending regards to you. I hope you're on the mend, fella, and that it's nice to see you looking in, and I hope that you're on the mend. He says, good morning from hospital. Well, that answered the question, didn't it, once I scrolled down? Anyway, I'm so pleased to see that you're on the mend here. Anyway, I'm going to have to disappear away. There's loads of comments there. Can I just say thank you for everybody's putting comments down. Unfortunately, I'm not doing a phone in here at the moment, so I want to get this up online. Also, just to remind you, yesterday's broadcast is up online. can I thank everybody that tuned in yesterday? What a fantastic show. Some great music choices from you guys yesterday. Absolutely awesome. Don't forget that tomorrow I'm broadcasting again live from Studio One in Zakynthos, and then I'll be broadcasting again Beats Anthems on beatsradio.co.uk, 2 hours of dance anthems. I'm really looking forward to hearing that show because I've got some absolute bangers for you. And then don't forget on Sunday at the weekend, it's the Northern Soul Show, 2 hours of fantastic Northern Soul with this the Soul Cream band going from coast to coast, bringing you the best in Northern Soul. Absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to that show. Anyway, today is kind of a bit of an easy day for me because I haven't got to worry about anything except getting the news ready for tomorrow. So anyway, you have a great day. Oh, and by the way, the little kitten, the last survivor, she's doing well at the moment. Mummy's doing really well. She does look a bit tired and a bit exhausted, but she's been a fantastic mother, little sweetie. If she's up for a little bit of a video later, maybe tomorrow, I might try and attempt to take a little video of her, but we're trying to leave her just to get on with things without any fuss, and she's doing a grand job at the moment, bless her. And she's not the cat of best of health, but she's coping as well as she can. Right, that's it from me. Big shout out to Paul Green. I know you're tuning in at the moment. Also, thank you again to Les Paul for all your interaction in this podcast this morning. It's absolutely amazing. I do like it. I really do. I do appreciate it as well. Give my love to Florida. I used to love Boca Raton and Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Spent a lot of time in those locations, and great area. And I do like the Southern. I even met Michael Moore. That's another story at the University of Florida a few years ago when Bush was running for second election. But that's another story for another day. Anyway, I will leave you, and I will see you then tomorrow. You take care. Oh, and Dave Matthews says good morning. He's on the bank fishing. You enjoy your fishing, sir, and I'll catch you later. Ta-ra.